Alright guys, so on this episode I want to talk to you guys about typography. The Webster's Dictionary considers typography as the style, arrangement, or appearance of printed letters on a page. And for me, typography represents a very importance of design. Without good typography, there's no good design. And also logo making, but an emphasis typography. So what is typography and how this is implemented in our day-to-day use? So in this book right here, it is called 100 Ideas That Changed Graphic Design by Stephen Heller and Rondik Vini. I think that's how I pronounce that. And on page 146, we talk about the grid. So what is the grid and how does it work with typography? Well, this is the thing. When you work with letters, you want to be able to put this all in together in a placement, and the grid helps you do that. So the grid, think about a grid. A grid is just a lines put together that make up a form and space. So this is a definition of what a grid is. So what you do is you put the letter forms in that grid. So for instance, here they have the grid here. They have the grid here, and then point blank, this is how the grid should work onto that. So basically what you do is you put these letter forms on a grid and you put hierarchy on it. So bigger letters and smaller letters that make up a space. For instance, this is a good picture of it. So for instance, if you see in this picture over here, we get a good emphasis on what is a hierarchy, which is a form here and another form here, and you use the grid systems to line up the letters of that form. And that is pretty much what you do in typography, is you put a layout. And there's also different forms of typography, different letter forms, and these letter forms that people call them fonts, but in design world we call them typefaces or type families. Type families being lettercase and uppercase letters and all that good stuff. So there's also forms of white space, which leads me to another page in this book, which is considered the white space and how white space is command on letter forms. And this is a good example of that here. Let me focus on it, which, they use the Q as a good reference, and then they put the body copy on the bottom. So pretty much, if you're a good person that works with type, or if you want to learn type, I recommend, Google searching typography and then looking into what typography is, because it really is a good, it's an art form of itself, and it's very, very important when it comes to design. And you can also make letter forms like that. There's also calligraphy, where you use the weights of the typeface and all that stuff. So where am I going with this? Well, as I am working on my portfolio right now, I think I should emphasize what typography is and how I placement of a typography. So what am I going to do is kind of make an editorial layout, and want the viewer or the employer or the clients to see how I use typography and how I implement that into a space in some form. So without further ado, let's get into that. Okay guys, so here I have the typographic layout form and space. So I started off with the big O, just trying to give out a good sense of editorial layout, kind of like when you turn the page, the first article, you always see a big hierarchy form. So I use a big O as kind of a significant value of hierarchy in a form, and it goes off with the title and then the subtitle, and then we go on with the layout of the mag. So here we got about 2 column layout with 4 individual layouts with column grids along the system right. And pretty much what I'm doing here is telling the viewer to see that, you know, this is how placement in a grid system is used under an editorial layout. And then here we are using hierarchy forms of typography and everything of that form. And here we are and how you will see implemented in an actual magazine. And then here are more forms of layouts. So you're probably wondering why I chose an editorial layout, magazine layout, rather than doing it on a website or a product or any kind of that matter. And the thing is I believe that editorial layout on a magazine is kind of the foundation. Once you know how to use editorial layouts in some form of print, usually in a magazine, then you're able to implement those kind of design forms into anything. You can put that into a website. You can implement those skills on a product design. You can implement that in the layout of a magazine. Magazine meaning an advertisement or a billboard, anything form of that nature. You know, you take those skills, what you learned, the layouts and the forms, and then you put it on anything else. Pretty much a website kind of falls in that category, but with that, it's more kind of, I think of a website kind of like a magazine, but interactive. That could fall into UI. Now that we have UI design now, I think that UI is also kind of a form of a magazine layout. You know, I'm a print person. I love print, and digital kind of just falls into that form. So that is what I do with typography in the form. And thanks for watching. I'm extremely tired now, but that is okay because I've managed to put another good project in my portfolio. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.